will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare recess at any time. Pursuant to House Resolution 8, today the committee is meeting virtually. I want to announce a couple of reminders to the members about the conduct of this remote meeting. First, members should keep their video feed on as long as they are present in the meeting. Members are responsible for their own microphones, and please also keep your microphones muted unless you are speaking. And finally, if members have documents they wish to submit to the record, please mail them to the committee clerk, whose email address was circulated prior to the meeting. Good morning. I'd like to welcome to the Member Day hearing for the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology for the 117th Congress. This meeting is being held pursuant to House Resolution 8, Section 3, and gives members, including those not on the committee, the opportunity to come before us and discuss proposed legislation and simply discuss interests and priorities on the committee's jurisdiction. We have members before us today to testify on a variety of policy areas and bills, and also had members submit testimony for the record. As the members of this committee know, I welcome input from all corners, and that includes members both on and off the committee. I'd like to welcome my colleagues testifying before us today, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts on these very important policy areas. I now recognize our ranking member, Mr. Lucas, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I look forward to the comments of our colleagues today. It's important that we hear from members. They, like you and I, represent and reflect the interest and the focus of their constituents all across the country. What they report to us, what they observe matters. And with that, I yield back so we can listen to our colleagues. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. If there are members who wish to submit additional opening statements, your statements will be added to the record at this point. Also, if there are members from off the committee who have submitted statements, I ask that they be inserted into the record for this hearing. Now to our testifying colleagues. We will have one panel, and each of you will have 5 minutes for testimony. When you have all completed your testimony, we will then open the floor to questions from the attending members of the committee. We will begin with the gentle lady from Mexico, Ms. Stansberry.
Madam Chair, I think we're having some trouble getting our testifying members connected, so it might make sense if we take a short recess until we can get them online.
Oh, okay. Let me know.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
I'm sorry. It's okay. hear from the gentlelady from New Mexico, Ms. Stansberry.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you to the entire committee. As one of the newest members of this committee, I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you to you all for your tremendous support and for helping me as I've been getting settled here on the committee. It's truly an honor to be able to serve on the Science and Space and Technology Committee, and I thank you for your collegial support. I'm excited to continue our science and technology work over the course of this fall. We have a lot of important work to do as a committee to help ensure that we are building a thriving STEM and S&T economy, not only for our country, but for our home states such as mine, New Mexico, which has a thriving, growing S&T economy, including 2 national labs, a number of Air Force research laboratories, an aerospace industry, and a tech industry. Our national labs in particular generate billions of dollars for our local economies. They employ thousands of New Mexicans and are a cornerstone of our communities, in addition to being a tremendous source of innovation in science and technology. Sandia Labs, which is in my district and which I have worked with and have visited many times, is a powerhouse in research and development and technological innovation in microelectronics, computing, energy generation and energy storage, modeling, and many areas that are critical to our national security and tackling some of our nation's biggest challenges. To ensure that this research that happens at our labs and at the Department of Energy can effectively translate into on-the-ground solutions and be deployed to solve our country and our planet's biggest challenges, it's critical that we leverage partnerships with academia and industry, and particularly our local and minority-serving institutions, to accelerate the development and commercialization of these technologies. That is why I am so proud to sponsor HR 4863, which is the Partnerships for Energy Security and Innovation Act, a bipartisan bill sponsored by many of the members on this committee and supported, of course, by our chairman and ranking member on this committee, which would create a foundation for the U.S. Department of Energy to leverage its partnerships and bring energy innovations to market, serving rural and underserved communities and facilitating the commercialization of next-generation technologies. As our country and our planet are facing global and national security threats, this effort is more important than ever. And I am so excited and honored to be able to help carry this bill and ensure that we are taking the science and technology and research and development happening at our national laboratories out into our communities and transforming our ability to solve our biggest challenges. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about this bill.
Well, thank you very much. And we'll go now to Mr. Chase of Hawaii before we get to questions. So, Ms. Stansberry, if you'll just stand by. Mr. Chase.
Thank you so much, Chair Johnson and Ranking Member Lucas and members of the committee, and mahalo for the opportunity to share my thoughts with the committee on climate change, especially as it relates to our oceans, which is, of course, a critical issue impacting my home state of Hawaii. We are, of course, severely impacting our climate through our actions. Throughout our nation this year, we've seen record temperatures, expansive droughts, massive wildfires, increased hurricanes, and more. This has, of course, tragically led to the deaths of many Americans and affected the lives and livelihoods of many more. These weather events will only increase in frequency and severity on our present course. In my home state of Hawaii, we are on the front lines of the fight against climate change because of its severe effects on our fragile ecosystems, especially our oceans. Ocean acidification is killing off our native reefs and shellfish. Ocean rise is washing away our beaches and threatening roads and communities. And increasing temperatures are having effects such as pushing mosquitoes and other invasive species further into our native forests, killing more and more of our endemic endangered species. I want to thank this committee for your leadership on climate-related issues to help protect Hawaii from these threats. Your work and investments in climate science, research, and observation technology have focused squarely on the challenges we're facing. For example, continued congressional support for NOAA's Mauna Loa Observatory on the island of Hawaii over decades has confirmed the existence, extent, and pace of climate change. Earlier this year, Mauna Loa recorded atmospheric CO2 levels exceeding 417 parts per million, which is 50% higher than the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and it's on an accelerating course. I speak before you today to request that this committee make sure to include our oceans in your future climate work. Perhaps this is not always top of mind to many people, but oceans cover 71% of our Earth's surface. Government scientists agree that oceans are critical in climate change since they absorb solar radiation and release heat needed to drive the atmospheric circulation. They absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it for years to millions of years. And our ocean greatly impacts weather events from hurricanes to droughts. To help do my part, together with other colleagues on a bipartisan basis, I'm an original co-sponsor of H.R. 3764, the Ocean-Based Climate Solutions Act, H.R. 3906, the Blue Carbon Protection Act, and H.R. 3748, the Blue Globe Act. These measures would help restore marine and coastal ecosystems, make coastal communities more resilient, and conserve marine mammal and fish populations. These bills have all been referred to my Natural Resources Committee, but they've also been referred to this committee. Your input and markup and serious attention to these measures are critical to their success, given your expertise in research and development and scientific issues more broadly. Their advancement is important to assisting coastal communities and constituencies like mine adapt to new realities of higher sea level, increased flooding, and depleted fish stocks. Furthermore, your continued investment in monitoring and forecasting can help us mitigate climate change effects until we develop long-term solutions. I grew up in the town of Hilo, Hawaii, on the coast, on the island of Hawaii, and I remember personally the 1960 tsunami that killed 61 people in my hometown. Because of the excellent work of the National Weather Service and other federal agencies, while we have had tsunamis since then, we have not seen a tragedy of that nature in America on that scale since. We can follow this model to help develop ways to save lives as we confront climate change head-on in this Congress and beyond. In closing, thank you again for your leadership in addressing the science of climate change and work towards advancing American innovation to address climate-related issues. I look forward to continuing to work with you on this critical issue that is affecting all of our constituencies and especially our oceans. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Thank you very much. At this point, we'll begin our question period, and I will first recognize myself for panel questions. Ms. Johnsbury, how would the foundation concept enable DOE to be more effective, to more effectively address the climate crisis?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This bill creates a quasi-private foundation based on a model that has been deployed in many other partnership models with other agencies, as well as public-private partnerships that help to commercialize various technologies. As we all know, our labs are sources for a tremendous amount of research and development and innovation. And so what this bill does is create a foundation process to help foster those public-private partnerships with local universities, especially minority-serving and tribal colleges and universities, and historically Black colleges and others, so that we're getting that science and technology into our local academic institutions and helping to commercialize the science that's being produced through our labs. So how that ultimately will help us solve the challenges of climate change is our national laboratories are doing a tremendous amount of modeling, research, and development, looking at the impacts of climate change, understanding how climate processes are happening. And by transferring that information and those technologies to our local institutions, it will help to translate that information into solutions that can be deployed in our communities. So helping to solve issues around drought and food security, wildfires, and other issues that are being impacted by climate change.
Thank you very much. Mr. Case, the Science Committee has held many productive ocean-related hearings and are working on significant ocean-related bills. We've talked about the importance of the ocean in the Earth system and the Ocean Climate Nexus on June 7th. we held a hearing entitled Defining a National Ocean Shot, Accelerating Ocean and Great Lakes Science and Technology. Earlier this year, we passed Ms. Bonamicha's Coast Research Act out of the House, and I'm committed to working with you and Chairman Bahava of the Committee on Natural Resources to move these important cross-jurisdictional ocean bills, including our forthcoming ocean exploration bill. In the gentleman's informed opinion, what would you say would be the most important ocean science questions you think the Science Committee should address?
Well, thank you so much, Madam Chair. And first of all, I do definitely want to again recognize the work of this committee to date. You've been real leaders on this issue. You have been entirely cognizant and fully appreciative of the oceans from a climate change perspective, you collectively. And it has been a wonderful working partnership from that perspective. I guess what I would say to you is that when we talk about the oceans are not some integrated, separate ecosystem from the land and from our air. And so I guess I would answer you very, very generally, which is your broader work on climate change is obviously critical to the oceans as well as every other part of our global ecosystem. And so I don't want to get away from that at all. I definitely believe that your emphasis on research and development in terms of climate change with specific regard to impacts on the oceans is invaluable because it does demonstrate the actual effect of climate change, which many of us don't perceive in the oceans because we don't tend to go into the oceans. I do, but many of us don't. Is critical from just appreciating the acidification, the increase in temperatures in our oceans, the impacts on coastal communities. That research and development proves a cause and effect, relationship that I think is critical from that perspective, together with your broader research.
Thank you very much. Now I'll open the floor to anyone on the committee who has a question of our testifying colleagues. Mr. Lucas, would you like to be recognized? You're muted.
Better now, Madam Chair, I hope.
Thank you. Yes.
Allocating me time. I'd simply say to my colleagues, I appreciate the input that both of you offered. It's important to the committee. In particular, Congressman Case, some years ago when I was a subcommittee chairman on agriculture, you and I conducted a hearing addressing the agricultural conservation programs and the unique nature of Hawaii and the islands. Would you remind us today about the climate, the different climate zones? When you're on an island, you literally have everything from rainforest potentially to arid deserts or semi-arid. Could you mention a few details about that, the unique challenges in Hawaii?
Well, first of all, Congressman, it was great to host you in Hawaii in conjunction with both of our membership then on the Agriculture Committee, and I really appreciated your interest and attention to unique challenges of agriculture in tropical parts of our country, which again is not most of our country, but we certainly have our specialty agriculture. You saw that in spades, and your visit is remembered, by the way. So in Hawaii, and this is relevant to our conversation, we have all of the microclimates of the world in one place. We go from alpine to montane to deep tropical rainforest to desert and everywhere in between. And by the way, this goes out into the ocean. So we have many of the characteristics of the ocean in one place as well. We have certainly the nearshore tropical world of corals and tropical fish, but we go very quickly to deep ocean where we have impacts from climate change in our deep oceans, and this is within our EEZ. And so really, from a positive and a negative perspective, excuse me. On the positive side, you've got every impact of climate change there is out there in a very small area, which makes the research and development that we do in Hawaii really integral to our our international understanding. On the negative side, we get impacted on a lot of different ways. And to your point on agriculture as one very specific area, I spoke to it a little bit earlier, but as the climate changes, as the temperature changes, those microclimes adjust to that. And the agriculture adjusts to that, and the invasive species that we have adjust to that as well. I made mention of the fact that we saw mosquitoes and other pests coming deeper into native forests, where the natural flora and fauna never had to deal with mosquitoes before. And so as a result, and I think it's pretty clearly directly impacted by climate change and increased air temperatures, which are causing that, we are seeing devastation. And that is true also in our agriculture in Hawaii. So there are broad-ranging effects that you can see in a very, very small and confined area in Hawaii. I'm sure this is the case in many, many parts of our country and world, but I happen to live it, so I see it.
Thank you both, and I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Anyone else seeking time? We're hearing none. I will bring this meeting to a close, and I want to thank the members for their attendance, and this really concludes our Member Day hearing. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.